Broadcasting from Studio A here at Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs. It's time for the Gardening Simplified Show with Stacey Hervella, me, Rick Weist, and our engineer and producer, Adriana Robinson. Well, today, some Thanksgiving botany. Native Americans helped the European settlers grow corn and use fish to fertilize their fields. And then in 1621, they kind of had this impromptu harvest gathering, the first recorded Thanksgiving Day in Plymouth. By the way, I visited Plymouth Rock. I was kind of disappointed. I thought the rock would be bigger.
They do say it is one of the most disappointing American history sites.
Yeah.
But, it's because you learn about it as a kid. So, of course, in your mind, it's like this massive. It's like the Rock of Gibraltar or something, when in fact it's just really quite a large boulder.
Exactly. Oh, well, don't want to throw a wet blanket on it. Actually, the Thanksgiving festivities, the planned ones, happened 2 years later in 1623. And they had this big party because it was after a 2-month drought. A lot of people would argue, well, the whole thing started in 1863 after Gettysburg and Abraham Lincoln's proclamation. Regardless, there is a direct tie between Thanksgiving and botany. For example, how about some sourdough bread, some fresh herbs, mushrooms, and chestnuts to make a classic chestnut stuffing? The American chestnut was a cornerstone of the eastern U.S. ecosystem. Some people think maybe a quarter or more of the trees along the East Coast were these chestnuts, and then, of course, they're wiped out, functionally extinct as far as the mature trees are concerned. By 1950, the non-native fungal pathogen wiped them out. But, of course, the American Chestnut Foundation's working to develop blight-resistant American chestnut trees. They're doing scientific research, breeding. A lot of people have high hopes for the return of this tree.
I certainly do. And, one of the reasons that we're doing the show, just for all of our listeners and viewers, is so that you have alternative topics to talk about at Thanksgiving, because who doesn't appreciate like a good fact bomb in the middle of a, difficult conversation? Right. You could just be like, oh, hey, did you know? But I would say, I feel like if this is the first time you're hearing about American chestnuts, it's a sad story. It's like a truly sad story. And I am very hopeful that they will make progress and be able to bring it back. But, you really have to, I think, start to research, look at photos online to even begin to get a scope of what we lost with the American chestnut.
Oh, agree. Are you going to put marshmallows on the sweet potato dish or the candied yams? I'll take a pass on the lime jello marshmallow holiday mold or the ambrosia salad.
Are they still doing that?
I don't know. I think they do. Some people do. But the main ingredients in a marshmallow are sugar, corn syrup, flavorings like vanilla extract, water, air, and gelatin. So the commercial marshmallows today do not contain mallow root. And, of course, this was an important plant. They extracted sap from the root of the mallow plant. I believe it is Althea officinalis. Don't hold me to that.
No, you're right. That's correct.
Is it? Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting thing because Althea is a genus in and of itself.
Yes.
But if you head down south, they call all Rose of Sharon Althea, which are actually hibiscus. And obviously they're in the same family. The flowers do look superficially similar. But yeah, it's a very confusing thing. But the plant that actually made the original marshmallows, the marshmallow, is indeed an Althea. And it's beautiful. It's really quite a lovely plant.
It is a beautiful plant. In the 19th century, French confectioners began whipping the mallow root sap with egg whites and sugar to create this lighter, fluffier candy. But then, of course, mass production came along and gelatin, and we got the stable, spongy texture of marshmallows.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning here that what makes one of the characteristics of the mallow family is that the Malvaceae is that they do have this kind of mucilaginous texture. And if you think of okra, well, okra is one of those members of that family. So it's very easy, I think, to kind of extrapolate. I mean, I love okra.
So do I.
Great Thanksgiving dish there. If you still have some around, of course, most of us would probably have to use frozen okra by the time November rolls around because it's quite a heat lover. But yeah, so it had that kind of mucilaginous texture that it could emulsify all of those different ingredients. But yeah, now they just use gelatin.
I'm glad you said that, Stacey, because I had mucilaginous in my notes, and I'm glad
a tough word
you
to say.
pronounced it for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's a great description. And I love okra, and my favorite way to have, well, of course, I love deep fried okra, but my doctor doesn't like that for me. But okra mixed with tomatoes and corn.
That's so
the way
good.
I like okra.
So good.
Yeah. Now, to me, the pinnacle of Thanksgiving botany is the green bean.
Oh.
More specifically, the green bean casserole. And it's my birthday dish. On my birthday, as opposed to cake with candles, I get green bean casserole.
That's adorable.
With candles.
I love that.
In it. I love green bean casserole. And this year, my birthday does fall on Thanksgiving Day.
It does.
It does.
Well, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. So green bean casserole, of course, the American dish, consisting primarily of green beans, cream of mushroom soup, and French fried onions, popularized in the 1950s. I think it was a gal by the name of Dorcas Riley at the Campbell Soup Company. And I was looking this up. Campbell's estimates it's served in 20 million Thanksgiving dinners in the United States each year, and that 40% of the company's cream of mushroom soup sales goes into the version of the dish.
Wait, what percent goes into green bean casserole?
40% of the company's production of cream of mushroom.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it is.
That is really amazing.
It is. And I have taken through the years so much abuse from people for loving green bean casserole because green bean casserole is one of these polarizing things. And if we're talking about Thanksgiving botany, I grow a lot of green beans in my garden in summer.
Right.
Beans, corn. As a matter of fact, in segment 4, we'll talk about the three sisters, important part of Thanksgiving botany. So, Stacey, my limerick this week has got to be the green bean casserole limerick. And this is for all those people who, through the years, have given me a hard time on two things. One, my love for green bean casserole, and number two, people always picked on me about my Mr. Rogers sweater, and so I made sure to wear that today also.
Well, I think it's lovely.
Thank you. So for Thanksgiving, here you go. If planning dinner when the holidays loom, the bean can be a dressed-up legume. Just float in cream of mushroom soup, add crispy onions on top of the goop, and forget the fork. Eat with your spoon. Leftovers on plates of styrofoam. Later you'll spot it when the fridge you comb. Just run it through a strainer or eat directly from a Cool Whip container. But no way around it, you're taking some home. If we took a popularity poll, 50-50 would be the final toll. One half would say yum, half would say it's dumb. The iconic green bean casserole.
Oh, that was, the love that you have for the green bean casserole really came through in that. I would say
makes my mouth water.
That people who put down green bean casserole probably just have not had a good version of it.
That's possible.
And I, remember celebrating several years ago with someone who was lactose intolerant.
Okay.
And so she made from scratch, because she couldn't use all the usual ingredients, made a version of green bean casserole completely from scratch. So, cooking raw beans, making the sauce, all of this. And it was outstanding.
Yeah.
And the fact is, the nice thing about a green bean casserole, like if you have to think about this from the host's perspective, because you can bring a green bean casserole, it's going to hold all that heat. You don't have to ask your host to put anything in the oven. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, as much as a salad or a fresh green vegetable is welcome at a meal, they just don't go at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It just does not happen. I've seen it long enough to say it's just not worth it. It's got to be in casserole form.
And you got to have lots of the crispy onions on top.
That's the best part.
You can never have too many of the crispy onions on top. But again, a controversial subject, part of Thanksgiving botany. There's other things I can talk about. I know lima beans are very controversial. Wearing bread bags in your boots to keep your feet dry. That's controversial too, and something we talk about in the holidays. But I'll let that go for now, and we'll continue this conversation in segment 4. Right now, Plants on Trial is coming up next here on the Gardening Simplified Show.
Greetings, gardening friends, and welcome back to the Gardening Simplified Show, where we're about a week out from Thanksgiving here in the U.S., and we wanted to give our listeners and viewers something to talk about. Things can sometimes get awkward at the Thanksgiving table. They can get heated.
There's tension over the football game.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. There's always tension, especially, being from Michigan. The Lions are always playing. It's gotten a lot better in recent years, knock on wood, than it had been. But still, so we thought that it would be a good idea to share some gardening and horticultural and botanical facts that you can then share at your Thanksgiving table. So when everyone's sitting around and, maybe things are getting contentious, you can just be like, hey, did you know that the corn that we eat is the ancestor of a plant called teosinte from Mexico, and that it is basically the progenitor of all of our corn, and that it underwent a natural mutation about 9,000 years ago that caused the skin on the kernels to become thinner. And so what these ancient American farmers were doing was saving the seeds from the thinner kernels, because they were like, oh, hey, we can actually use this. It's not, this giant thing that's impossible for us to process. So they actually selected over many, many years what has since become modern corn. So that is a plant called teosinte, Teosinte. It is from the Nahuatl word, which means sacred corn. So I would encourage you to take a look at this. Very interesting story. You can read a lot about it. I read this great quote, and corn is not today's plant on trial. I am going to get to that, but I needed to get this teosinte thing in there just to set the tone for all of the great stuff we're going to be throwing at you today. Oikos Tree Crops is this very interesting nursery. They're down in Kalamazoo here in Michigan, and they specialize in Native American crops. So they're selections of our native plants that are edible. And so there was an article that I was reading about teosinte on their website, and the author had this quote. I thought it was so interesting. Corn and humans are now connected, but teosinte built the bridge.
Wow.
So
that is interesting. No wonder the European colonists or visitors in 1600 weren't aware of the corn and needed the Native Americans to teach them.
Yeah, it was a 10-foot tall plant.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff we're trying to get onto your radar today. And, anyone who listens to the show knows I love all of these kind of random plant facts. And so for me, saying like, oh, can we devote a whole show to random plant facts related to Thanksgiving? I was like,
that's in your wheelhouse.
Can I make it a little bit longer? But speaking of contentious topics, I'm taking an entire group of plants for today's plant on trial, and that group of plants is mums.
Mamma mia.
So if you've listened to the show for a while, and
Mamma mia,
especially,
I know. That you, Stacey?
So you're gonna hear me out here, because I'm gonna tie this up nicely. I really am.
Okay.
I hope. I have a lot to fit in, though.
Mum's the word.
So, of course, if you've listened to the show before, you've heard Rick and I speak less than glowingly about mums. And, I don't want anyone to misunderstand. Of course, we always feel like whatever you like to do in your garden is what you should do. It's your garden. It's for you. So I do not begrudge anyone who goes out and buys mums. And, of course, I love what they do for our industry, for the horticulture industry, for the grower side, for the independent garden center side. All of this is so important. And I love that mums are the thing that get people thinking about their garden again at a time where they would normally be shutting everything down. They're like, oh, no, it's mum season, so I'm going to, change out all of my geraniums for mums. So I understand that they play an important role. But my personal grudge against mums stems from a single fact, that the mums that we get in the garden centers should be so much more than they are. They are really doing a disservice to the entire genus of chrysanthemum, because there are so many more interesting mums than just these clumpy balls of color that they sell.
Yeah, they're too perfect.
They're brittle.
Yep.
So they're like this perfect mound, and then you put it in the back of your car with like your groceries and stuff because you just picked it up on your way into the grocery store. You're driving home, a big chunk of it falls off. There's nothing you can do. And, it's just like, and then they just kind of go bad. Like they just start getting brown. And then you're left with this big, crumbly, ball of mum that just stays there. Yeah. But mums can be so much more. And that's what I really wanted to share with you today. So let's take a little step back in time first of all. It's probably not going to come as a surprise to anybody that mums originated from Asia and from China specifically. And the first mums that they had in China were actually used for food. They were not decorative. They were not ornamental. They were using the flowers, the buds, and the foliage as a food source.
Doesn't smell very appetizing.
Well, no, this was not the same mum. I do want to make that clear. So if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, well, wait, I got a mum in the backyard, I'm going to go try this. I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay. We
are talking about, much like I was just saying with teosinte being an ancient relative of corn, the edible chrysanthemum, which you can still buy and grow yourself if you are so inclined, is a very different animal than the garden mum that most people are putting into their gardens nowadays. So don't eat the mums that you have. If you do want to try the edible chrysanthemum, known in Japanese as shunguku, you can just go to any Asian market near you and they will probably have the leaves in a big bundle and you can steam those, you can stir fry them, they pickle them. There's all sorts of recipes you can find. And it's very easy to grow and it's really quite lovely because you'll see kind of the yellow, sort of daisy, sort of mum-like flower. And it seems very easy to grow. And I actually might try to grow that myself this season. But so started out as an edible crop. And because there was such a huge influence of Chinese culture into Japan, when mums made it to Japan, well, they just went crazy for them. To this day, the mum, known in Japanese as kiku, is the symbol of the imperial house of Japan.
Okay.
It is the symbol that is on the Japanese passport. Anything that you see in Japan and you see that it has that very distinctive chrysanthemum crest, it is related to the imperial or royal family. Their official throne has a chrysanthemum on it. So it's a very big cultural tie to Japan. And because of that, the Japanese have spent the last several thousand years developing mums that are nothing like you have ever seen before. And so this is what this is about for me, is I want those mums. I want the interesting mums. I would like them a lot more if I had some of these interesting mums. And I sent pictures to Adriana. So if you're not familiar with this, and this is the first time you're hearing it, and mums to you are only those like clumpy garden mums, please go to our YouTube version and check out the amazing mums. I took these photos at the Lansu Chinese Garden in Portland, Oregon, about 10 years ago or so. I happened to be there for a mum show, and they were absolutely amazing. Adriana's shaking her head because she's seen the pictures, and I mean, it turns the entire idea on its head of everything that we assume. And so that's really where my, objection to mums come in, is the ones that we get are really a shadow of what this very, very interesting plant can actually be. Now, I will say this because I talk a lot about plant habits and how I like plants to be open and airy. And that is also one of the reasons why I don't love your kind of standard garden mum. These mums that I'm talking about are developed for their flowers and definitely not their habits. So that is obviously one reason why these mums aren't more popular as garden plants.
Sure.
They're pretty leggy. They pretty much need staking because as they were being developed over these thousands of years, they were so focused on the color and the shape of the flowers. They didn't really spend a lot of time thinking, hey, can we get stronger stems and have like a nice garden plant? It was not a goal.
Leggy, but maybe very nice cut flowers.
Very nice cut flowers. And I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, you can sometimes find some of these interesting mums as cut flowers. And coming into Thanksgiving, I would just encourage you, if you're going to be making an arrangement for your table, go to a specialty florist, see what they have. I'm not sure you're going to find all of the diversity that's out there, but you will find more interesting plants, than if you're just thinking like, ooh, mums, why would I put those on my table? I love the spider mums, the quill mums. In fact, the American Chrysanthemum Society recognizes, are you ready for this? 13 different classifications for chrysanthemums.
I believe it.
And there's going to be some pictures of these again on the YouTube version. Irregular incurve, reflex, decorative, pom-pom, intermediate incurve, anemone, spoon. I love those spoon mums.
Spoons are fun.
Quill, spiders. I love the spider mums. I love the ones that have like the double colors so that the inner petal is one color and the outer petal is another.
Beautiful.
So there's just this incredible diversity of really interesting and really beautiful plants that, I think we should try to grow in our gardens. So it's just a new take on mums. I wanted to defend my previous takes on mums and also introduce you and perhaps your Thanksgiving compatriots there to everything that a mum actually can be. So take a look at us on YouTube. If you aren't already, we'll have lots of inspiration for you there. And if you have mums on your Thanksgiving table, well, send us a picture. We'd love to see them. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're opening up the mailbag, so stay tuned. Greetings, gardening friends, and welcome back to the Gardening Simplified show, where we are so grateful for you in this season of gratitude. Every Monday I come in and if I look at the YouTube version, I'm really always just so humbled and taken aback by how many people enjoy the show, and it really means a lot that they say so. And I'm really glad that we get to spend some time with you. And the broad range of areas. People outside of the United States also are good friends in Canada and beyond. Just thanks for being friends. Right. And I think the good news for all of our listeners over those wide areas is that anyone can grow those mums. And you can grow them as an annual. So, whether you live in a cold climate or a hot climate, all of that stuff you just heard about on Plants on Trial, it's for you. Now, normally we would be answering your questions, and we will answer some questions today. But before we do, I wanted to talk about some clear confusion. I guess that's an oxymoron. Some confusion I have seen out there in social media land about stuff that's going on right now. Okay. Number one, I've been hearing a lot of people say, hey, we've already had some hard frosts. Can I still plant? And I think that there is a little bit of a misrepresentation here, that frost is definitely a very key indicator of planting time in the spring, but much less of a key indicator of planting time in the fall. It really is pretty much irrelevant in the fall. So a lot of times people think, okay, well, we've already had a frost. Guess the planting season is over. And it most certainly is not, even though, of course, now we're here. It's late November. Whether you are planting, shrubs or trees or perennials, the key kind of timing that you ideally want to look out for is you want to put stuff in the ground no later than 6 weeks before the ground freezes. That is certainly an easier said than done kind of guideline, because you never really know when the ground is going to freeze, And even if you have some cold, very cold temperatures in December and the ground gets frozen-ish, sometimes you get some warm temperatures and then it's not actually frozen. So I would say, like for us here in Michigan, at least in West Michigan, I don't think that our ground freezes at least until like early to mid-January, probably most years. I would agree. And of course, every winter is different. But you're right about the spring versus fall thing. And I think what happens is a lot of people watch weather forecasts and the meteorologists say, oh, protect those tender plants. And that's what happens. And then people start to freak or think, oh, boy, what am I going to do? Just this past weekend, Greenhouse was having a clearance sale. I bought a whole bunch of plants at 80% off. 80% off? 80% off, and I healed them into the ground, and I'll put them where I want next spring. I love that. That's another viable option, too, is that if you say, hey, I got these at a great discount, I don't know where I want them yet, I'm going to have to do some work, I'm going to have to do some dividing or moving, it is perfectly swell to just go ahead and heal those in. I just did some of that myself this past weekend, to just get them through the season, and then you can actually plant them. And, as long as that container has good drainage, it's no problem to even heal it in directly in its container and not bury completely. That's perennials, what I did. Shrubs, trees. Just get the roots into the ground. You're going to be okay. Yeah, and also so it won't keep blowing over all season, because that's another thing that's going to happen. And this goes for bulbs and garlic as well. So definitely now is a great time to do that gardening if you haven't already. So don't panic. It's not about the frost in fall. It's all about when the ground freezes. Now, the other thing is So as you know, we are very into big leaf hydrangeas, Hydrangea macrophylla here at Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs. That is the type with the big purple, pink, or blue flowers. And a lot of people who have attempted to grow these or still are attempting to grow them have a sense that the flower buds are on the plant right now, which is true. So the 2026 flower buds on your big leaf hydrangeas are in the process of forming on your plant right now. That means they have to go all through winter in order to be able to bloom in summer of 2026. And for those of us in cold climates, and I'm talking here about USDA Zone 5, in some cases for some, like Let's Dance Can Do and Let's Dance Skyview hydrangeas, USDA Zone 4, the temperatures are starting to get cold and you worry that you're going to lose those flower buds over the winter, even though those varieties were specifically selected to have better cold tolerance. So people who say maybe they have older varieties, I need to make sure that the buds make it through winter. They're like, should I start protecting my hydrangeas now? And I'm here to say there is absolutely no need to worry about the temperatures that we are having, even if you are in USDA Zone 4 at this time of year.
Agreed.
When we talk about those hardiness zones, USDA Zone 5 is a temperature of -20 Fahrenheit. Now, that's not to say that the plants can take long periods of -20 degrees Fahrenheit, but it is to say that the 30s and 20s and maybe, even if you're dipping into the high teens right now, are not a problem for your big leaf hydrangea whatsoever. You don't need to protect it now. What you really are going to need to protect those flower buds from, if you indeed are protecting, not all of them need protection, and some of us have no problem whatsoever. But if you are inclined to protect, you're really protecting from those prolonged periods of very, very cold weather that for us in Michigan, we usually get end of January, early February. That's when we have typically our coldest weather.
Yes.
If you don't have snow cover, that's another reason to protect. But you do not need to worry about those plants whatsoever with the cold that we're having in November and even in December. And if you do want to protect your hydrangeas, then make sure that it is completely dormant before you go out there and do anything. You do not want to protect a hydrangea that has not yet gone dormant, which is to say lost all of its leaves. It's really going to mess up, its ability to go dormant according to the cues of nature, the day length and all of that. So wait till it's completely dormant and then you can go ahead and work whatever magic you want. But don't worry about your plants right now. They're just going to sleep.
Agree. Boy, I'm glad you brought this up. Maintain your composture. The way to look at it is plants need to shut down in due process naturally. So give them some time to do that.
Yeah, I think people just get a little too worried, but they can easily take temperatures in the 20s, 30s, even the high teens. Not a cause for concern. So, you can just chill.
Yeah.
We have a question for you specifically, Rick.
Okay.
Our listener Val wants to know if you can please tell her what kind of leaf shredder you have. She can't find the video where you talk about it.
Okay, the leaf shredder, and we have shown this on the show, I think, a few times. It is called Works. So it's WORX. That's how they spell it. Works Electric Leaf Mulcher. So it runs, no messing with gas, 2-cycle engines, none of that. Just a typical 110 outlet, extension cord. My one knock on the product is it's a little top heavy. So if I stumble around in the garden, sometimes I can knock it over. But aside from that, easy to operate and does a great job of shredding leaves. The other thing is if you want to shred some leaves for some browns for your compost or to work them, speed up the decomposition process in your garden, when you operate something like this, it works best if the leaves are dry. If they are wet and matted, it's not going to work real well. So it's the Works, WORX Electric Leaf Mulcher. Look it up online. There's a number of different people who sell it. And I'm going to make a mental note right now to contact Works because I think I should be paid royalties for all the interest I've generated in this.
Well, now that it's about to be Black Friday, I'm sure there's going to be some good deals on garden equipment out there. So I thought it would be a good time to tell our listeners about what they could use. Now, similarly, we got a question from Kim. This is interesting. She says that she's always used Canadian peat to spread around her plants and beds in the fall, along with fall leaves mulched up from the mower. However, it seems that environmentalists and U.S. tariffs have decided she should not use peat. And then she was using a bunch of leaves from her neighbor's 6 large maples, and it sold, and they cut down the maples.
Oh, no.
Now she doesn't have her peat. She doesn't have her leaves. And she's wondering what she can do. She signs it Kim, desperate for humus.
Easy, you've got it. I like that. I like that. A good sense of humus, Kim.
Humus, yes.
I'll tell you what you got to do the same thing I do. People call me Planta Claus, and it's because I go out and I collect up leaves. So within a 1 to 2 mile radius of my home, I'll start scoping out homes in September, looking for good maple trees, and then I make friends, and you knock on the door, and they're actually quite intrigued that you have interest in their leaves. And then you pick them up, they bag them up nicely for you, and you take them home, and it works out great. It's a win-win. They're happy, you're happy.
The leaves are happy. The soil's happy. Everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy. It's just a great thing. So
when you ask them that, do they ever say yes if you rake them?
That's happened also. And I carry along a leaf blower in my car, so I've done that before for them. But initially they kind of look at you like, what are you, a salesman? What are you doing? No, I just want your leaves, and they're kind of intrigued by it.
Yeah, I'll bet.
They want to know more.
So I think that is great. Definitely, you can take leaves off the curb. Of course, you never know what you're going to get in those, but that is one option. The other thing I would say for Kim or for anybody, it's always worth reaching out to your city, your township, whatever,
yes,
and seeing if they have a compost program. In some places, if you are contributing compost, you can get free compost. Sometimes they'll sell it at a lower cost.
Agreed.
So you should definitely work with your city, at least check out whether that is a possibility for you, or even a nearby city. You might have to pay a little bit more as a non-resident. But, there's a very good possibility that you'll be able to get a good amount of bulk compost or semi-decomposed organic matter that way. That's free or affordable.
Leaf compost in this season of Thanksgiving. It's the gift that keeps giving.
So with that, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're continuing our conversation on the Botany of Thanksgiving. So stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Gardening Simplified Show. We're talking Thanksgiving botany. Stacey, I've got to throw into the mix, of course, one of my favorites, mashed potatoes. I don't know how many people grow potatoes in their vegetable garden. It is a process, takes some work, but potatoes certainly have to be on the list. I'm looking at a recipe for bourbon yams.
I do want to say about growing your own potatoes.
Yeah.
It's very easy to think potatoes are potatoes, and I can just get potatoes at the grocery store so cheap. Why in the world would I grow potatoes? Right. The difference between homegrown potatoes and grocery store potatoes, I cannot even begin to elucidate the difference. It is night and day. They are so very much better.
It's kind of like tomatoes.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing.
But people tend to think, oh, it's just a potato. No, you will have so much better potatoes if you grow them yourself. And I mean, is there anything more fun than digging up your potato plants and seeing all of those amazing potatoes under there?
Especially if you have kids or grandkids, a great thing to do.
Or you're just a kid at heart.
And you're a kid at heart. Exactly. But yes, as far as the yams are concerned, this was a easy root vegetable au gratin recipe. And it involves bourbon. So I'm thinking about trying that.
Well, yams are a good botanical conundrum for Thanksgiving, because what we call a yam, for the most part here in the U.S., is not a yam at all. It is a sweet potato.
And there's a big difference.
Big difference. So our sweet potatoes that we usually call yams, so when people talk about candied yams or, the yam casserole, those are sweet potatoes. They are in the morning glory family. And the yam is in its own family, the Dioscoridaceae, because they are Dioscorea. So same with the Filipino purple yam, that the ube that had its big day a couple of years ago. Those are in a totally different family. They can be sweet, but they're much starchier.
Okay.
Whereas the sweet potato is obviously very sweet. It's got that orange flesh that we all recognize. And it is indeed the same progenitor as the decorative sweet potato vines from Proven Winners.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. People always ask if they can, especially the older varieties like Margarita, if they can eat the potatoes that are in there And the answer is that you can. They're not really developed for the best flavor, like if you just decide to grow and buy sweet potatoes to grow that are intended for eating.
Terrible.
They taste terrible. I've never tried one. You have tried one. Okay.
Not good.
Well, there you have. So more of a subsistence food.
How about pumpkins and canned pumpkin? In the United States, most are made from Dickinson pumpkins, making it the most common source of pumpkin pie filling. So the story behind this is Elijah Dickinson of Kentucky, 19th century. Pumpkins named after him. I guess they're great for canned pumpkins. He takes them to central Illinois, Morton, Illinois. Of course, that's where the bulk of pumpkins in the United States are. That's the pumpkin epicenter in the United States.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Well, that's a shame because he's not getting his credit whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on millions of Thanksgiving tables every single year, and no one spares a thought for poor Elijah Dickinson.
That's true.
So anyway, maybe that's something you can think about.
I'm trying to give him a little bit of
I appreciate
notoriety here. Yeah. So one of the places where you can find wiggle room as far as Thanksgiving botany is concerned, as far as pure tradition is concerned, is in the area of pies. I mean, pumpkin pie is the most traditional option, but there's plenty of regions of the country that prefer to go another route. So most areas prefer pumpkin as their Thanksgiving pie of choice. And of course, you got to add some Cool Whip. Got to have Cool Whip.
Or,
that was
actual whipped cream.
That was invented in the 60s when I was a kid. And to this day, we're still trying to figure out what non-dairy Cool Whip is made of.
Well, the important thing is you get the container.
Yeah, the containers are very handy to pack your green bean casserole and take it home. Yeah, exactly. Other regions of the country prefer apple pie. And, of course, in the South, they're saying East, South, Central states, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, apple pie. But then when you go to Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Texas, they said pecan pie alone was the most worthy pie for their Thanksgiving feast. And, of course, I love pecan pie.
I always heard that pecan pie was a recipe from the Caro Company for corn syrup.
Oh.
So not a traditional food, not unlike the green bean casserole, a recipe intended to sell a specific food product.
Yet another upsetting issue for my doctor because I think pecan pie is great for breakfast. I really do.
Pecans are pretty healthy.
Yeah. The pecans are healthy. Thank you.
I'm just saying there's a good element in there. It's not complete garbage.
Of course, corn is super important. In agriculture, you'll hear about the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, the major staples of Native American agriculture, always grown together. Corn was the most important staple food grown by Native Americans. The corn stalks provided a pole for the beans to climb. Shade from the corn benefited the squash that grew under the leaves. The beans, as with all legumes, provided nitrogen for the corn and squash. And finally, the shade from the large squash and pumpkin leaves held moisture in the ground for all three plants. That's why they call them the three sisters.
Yes.
So they've got to be part of our Thanksgiving botany. Another one, of course, cranberries.
Yes, my favorite.
My favorite, too. I love cranberries. Cranberry cultivation began in 1816 in Massachusetts, where Revolutionary War veteran Henry Hall found that covering cranberry bogs with sand fertilized the vines and retained water around their roots. And, this is a misconception I think a lot of people have. They think that cranberries always are underwater, and they're not.
They are not. They are grown that way specifically to make harvesting easier, which they no longer actually need because they have machinery. But back in the day, they would flood the bog and all the ripe berries would float to the top, and it would be very easier, I guess, to harvest the cranberries just by skimming the floating berries off the top. I always felt like cranberries were so special because there was, in the U.S., at least in my family, no other time of the year that you had something like cranberry sauce. However you made it, it was just something that was very different. Now, cranberries are North American native fruit, which is one of the reasons why they are so integral to Thanksgiving.
It's an American thing?
It is an American thing. Botanically, they are known as Vaccinium macrocarpon. And Vaccinium, if you're not familiar, is the same genus as blueberry. So from a botanical standpoint, they are very similar to blueberry. The difference there is macrocarpon, the species of cranberry, means big fruit.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Now, of course, the cranberries have built-in air pockets, so to speak, so that when they flood the bogs, I guess they float then, and that's what makes harvesting easier. From the perspective of U.S. history, General Ulysses S. Grant is widely credited with the tradition of serving cranberry sauce with the Thanksgiving meal because in 1864, he ordered that the dish be included in the holiday feast for all Union troops during the siege of Petersburg.
I did not know that. That's interesting. And cranberries are actually very closely related to lingonberries, which is sort of the Scandinavian version of the cranberry. Same genus, different species, and they're smaller. So cranberries are nice and big. I did not know that we have Grant to thank for.
Yeah.
You know, and they're so pretty. Like, I love the look of the cranberries on the Thanksgiving table. My grandma always served them in a beautiful crystal bowl because you had to see the color of them, you know, compared to all of the brown stuff on the table.
Absolutely. And when I was on the East Coast, Cape Cod, I sought out some of these areas to take a look, and yet the number one state in the United States for cranberry producing is Wisconsin. Huh. Massachusetts follows Wisconsin, then New Jersey and Oregon. And, of course, cranberries are a very tart fruit. I put them in my fruit smoothies, but it being so tart, I would think that it's less of a problem for deer browsing, animal browsing, than possibly other types of berries. But that's just a guess.
It is a guess because they are in the Ericaceae or the heather and heath family, like rhododendron and azalea. And rhododendron and azalea can get pretty eaten by deer. So
that's true.
You know, there's just no telling with those creatures.
Of course, at the end of the day, adding cream, butter, cheese, bacon, bourbon, anything will make anything taste good. Whipped cream in a can, the nitrous oxide, that's a tradition at my house to spray it in people's mouths, the propellant in the can. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, please. And, of course, non-dairy Cool Whip topping. So you got the Cool Whip and you got the Miracle Whip, because I use the Miracle Whip to leaf shine my houseplants. It does a wonderful job.
Really? And it doesn't get like dust and stuff stuck to it?
If you don't have pets, because the pets are going to be drawn to it then.
Adriana's over there nodding her head.
Right, Adriana, no. But if you don't have pets, Miracle Whip you can use as a leaf shine. So... And then, of course, I got to wrap it up here. So I got to wrap it up with the fact that as far as herbs are concerned, I have to have sage. At Thanksgiving. And sage is perfect complement to things like butternut squash soup, as a matter of fact, or in stuffing. So sage is the perfect complement to Thanksgiving feasts and fall squash. Whew. There you have it, Thanksgiving botany.
All right. I hope everybody learned something and can take away a fun fact to share with a family member this season.
Absolutely.
So on that note, we bid you a very happy Thanksgiving. And thanks to you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks to you, Adriana. And thanks to all of you for listening.